Hi, in this video, I will share with you one really interesting and intriguing detective story. So prepare some hot drink and let's start. Murder at Greystone Manor. On a rainy London morning, the postman delivered several envelopes, sealed with deep red wax, and the faint scent of perfume. Each bore the Whitmore family crest, a lion and a rose, symbols of pride and tradition. Inside, a handwritten note read, "You are cordially invited to spend the weekend at Greystone Manor, in celebration of the engagement of Miss Clara Whitmore and Mr. Edward Langley. Yours sincerely, Lady Agatha Whitmore." To most, it was just a pleasant social event, an opportunity to show off new gowns and gossip over champagne. But Inspector Arthur Hale saw more than that. He recognized the name Edward Langley. It had appeared once in a police report 8 years ago, connected to the mysterious death of a young woman in London. The suspect vanished. Evil, Hale believed, never disappears. It only changes its address. And now, it seemed, it had moved to Greystone Manor. Greystone Manor stood on the edge of a cliff, gray and solemn, its towers vanishing into mist. Stone angels guarded the gate, their faces turned downward, as if warning every visitor who entered. By Saturday evening, the guests had arrived. Lady Agatha Whitmore greeted them by the fire, elegant, perfectly composed, yet her eyes trembled with fatigue and something darker. Clara, her daughter, in a pale blue dress, looked more frightened than joyful. She smiled at her fiancé, but her eyes were cold. Edward Langley, tall, charming, his voice soft and deliberate. He had the calm of a man used to being watched. Reverend Miles, the family's spiritual advisor, kind and weary, with the air of someone who had seen too much and spoken too little. Dr. Leonard Graves, the old family physician, logical, detached, his gaze too sharp for comfort. Mrs. Dawson, the housekeeper, loyal yet nervous. Her hands shook, and on her wrist was a thin, pale scar. And finally, Julian Carter, a journalist who claimed to be an old friend. He smiled often, but mostly listened. As dinner began, thunder rolled outside. "To love," Edward said, raising his glass. "To honesty, to new beginnings." At the word honesty, Lady Agatha's hand trembled. The grandfather clock struck 9 and stopped halfway through the 10th chime. "They always do that," she whispered, "since my husband died." Late that night, Edward stood by his window, smoking. Then he froze. In the garden, under the rain, a woman in a white dress walked slowly toward the old shed near the cliffs. He dropped his cigarette. "There's someone out there," he whispered. Inspector Hale followed him outside. Wind howled, rain slashed across their faces. They reached the shed, empty. Only an old rope, dust, and a burned scrap of paper. It read, in a woman's handwriting, "If she marries him, we will both die." Morning brought a scream. "He's dead," cried Mrs. Dawson. Edward Langley sat slumped at his desk, his face pale, a glass of brandy before him. Dr. Graves needed only a glance. "Cyanide," he said grimly. Clara fainted. Lady Agatha froze like marble. Inspector Hale took out his notebook. "No one leaves this house," he said calmly, "until we find out who among us is a murderer." The study was locked from the inside. The key was in Edward's pocket. On the desk, 3 strange details. 1, a half-finished letter. "Clara, I must tell you the truth." 2, a silver cigarette case, missing 1 cigarette. 3, a lipstick mark on the brandy glass. Clara never wore lipstick, but in Lady Agatha's room, Hale found a lipstick tube, Venetian Kiss, the same shade. "I wasn't in his study," Lady Agatha said coldly, "and I certainly didn't serve his drink." "Forgive me, ma'am," whispered Mrs. Dawson, trembling, "but I saw you there last night. You told me not to speak." Silence fell like snow. Hale spent the morning in the library. In an old poetry book, he found a torn page tucked between verses of Keats. "I am not who I seem. The name Langley is a lie. 8 years ago, in London, a woman died. I was accused, but I was not the one who killed her. It was The line ended abruptly. Hale remembered the case. A maid who had fallen from a balcony in the Whitmore home ruled accidental. Coincidence? Later that day, Hale confronted the journalist Carter. "You knew Langley before this weekend, didn't you?" Carter smirked. "I wrote about him once. He had secrets. But who doesn't? Is that a crime?" "Sometimes," Hale replied. "It's murder." That evening, a storm tore down the power lines. The house plunged into darkness. Candles flickered like frightened eyes. Whispers filled the hallways. Reverend Miles prayed softly. Clara approached him. "You told me he was good, that I had nothing to fear. But he lied, all along." "I tried to protect you, Clara," he murmured. "Protect her from what?" Came Lady Agatha's voice from the dark. Before anyone could answer, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. They ran and found Julian Carter lying at the bottom of the staircase. His neck was broken. 2 deaths. One night. That night, Mrs. Dawson sobbed as Hale questioned her. "I swear I didn't touch the tea, but I heard Lady Agatha and Reverend Miles arguing." He shouted, "You'll destroy her, just like you destroyed the other girl." "What girl?" Hale asked. "The one who fell from the cliff. She was the master's lover, the one Lady Agatha hated." Lady Agatha's face went white. "That's a filthy lie." But her trembling hands and the scar on her wrist betrayed her. Late that night, Hale searched the library again. Behind a shelf, he found a secret door. The narrow corridor led to a small room with no windows. On the walls, photographs. Lady Agatha, her husband, and a smiling young maid, the same one who fell. Next to her, in another photo, Edward Langley. So the dead maid had been his lover. Lady Agatha killed her out of jealousy, and now Edward had returned, under a false name, to make her confess. Hale gathered everyone in the drawing room. "Tonight," he said, "I will read Edward's final letter. It names the killer." The clock ticked toward midnight. Tension thickened. Then, a creak of floorboards. Lady Agatha rose, pale and trembling, a pistol in her hand. "You should have left it alone, Inspector. You've ruined everything." But before she could fire, another shot rang out. The pistol fell from her hand. Clara stood in the doorway, holding a revolver. "I'm sorry, Mother," she whispered, "but it has to end." Later, in the quiet aftermath, Clara spoke. "I found my father's diary," she said softly. "He knew Mother killed that girl, her husband's lover. He wanted to go to the police. Then he died suddenly. Heart failure, they said, but it was poison." Edward learned the truth. He came back to expose her, and she silenced him, like the rest. "And Reverend Miles?" Hale asked. "He knew, and he paid for it." Lady Agatha died in prison. Some said illness. Others said fear. Inspector Hale left Devon soon after. His report read simply, "Case closed. Greystone Manor." Months later, fishermen found a silver locket near the cliffs. Inside was a photograph of a smiling woman, and behind her reflection, faintly, another face. The waves whispered as they closed around it. Greystone remembers. Thank you for watching. We're really grateful for your support by taping comments, your likes, and if you'll subscribe this channel. We'll see you soon.